I am going to win. I am not saying this because everything around me looks perfect, or because I already hold the victory in my hands. I am saying this because deep within my spirit, I can already see it. I can see the picture of victory that God has placed inside of me. Long before the world sees it, I see it in the unseen realm. The invisible becomes visible to the one who dares to believe. You may not see it now, but faith sees the victory before it happens. Faith speaks it, faith declares it, and faith holds on to it until it becomes a reality. I am going to win because my vision is not built on what I feel, but on what I believe. Feelings change, situations change, but the Word of God never changes. When everything around me says I will lose, my faith whispers that I will win. When doors close, my spirit says there's a better one opening. When people doubt me, my heart says God is with me. When fear knocks at my door, faith answers and fear disappears. I will not bow to discouragement, because I know who walks before me and who stands behind me. Winning is not about being stronger than others. It's about believing stronger than your fears. Every winner first faced a battle within before they saw the victory outside. The war of doubt, the noise of insecurity, the temptation to give up, these are all part of the process that molds a champion. You don't become victorious in comfort. You become victorious in conflict. The valley prepares the voice of victory. The night gives birth to the dawn. So when I say, I am going to win, I am not ignoring the storm. I am declaring that the storm cannot stop me. You must see the picture of your victory before it comes. If you see yourself defeated, you will walk like a defeated person. But if you see yourself as a winner, you will carry the posture of faith even in the darkest valley. Picture yourself healed. Picture yourself restored. Picture yourself overcoming every obstacle. Speak to that mountain, not with fear but with authority. The mountain will move because it recognizes the voice of faith. Faith does not negotiate with failure, it commands the impossible to bow. There were moments in my life when everything seemed to crumble, when prayers felt unanswered, when I thought my dreams were fading away. But in those moments, I heard a quiet voice saying, "Don't give up, keep believing." Every time I chose to believe, even when I couldn't see, something began to shift. The situation might not have changed overnight, but my spirit did. I started walking like a victor, talking like a victor, thinking like a victor. And eventually the victory came to meet me. Winning starts on the inside. You win in your heart before you win in your circumstances. The power of the mind and the confession of your mouth shape your destiny. Speak life even when you see death. Speak hope even when you feel despair. Speak victory even when defeat seems louder. The power of life and death is in your tongue. Don't say, "I can't." Say, "I will." Don't say, "It's impossible." Say, "With God, all things are possible." Your words are seeds. Plant victory, and victory will grow. Sometimes God allows struggles not to break you, but to train you. A soldier cannot be strong without battle. A diamond cannot shine without pressure. A seed cannot sprout without being buried. What looks like a burial may actually be the beginning of your breakthrough. When people walk away, when doors close, When tears fall, remember the story isn't over. You are still in the process of becoming the winner God designed you to be. I am going to win, not because of my strength, but because of the one who strengthens me. I am going to win, not because the path is easy, but because I refuse to quit. I am going to win, not because I have all the answers, but because I trust the one who does. My victory is not in my power, but in His promise. My faith is not in what I see, but in what He has spoken. So when you wake up tomorrow, lift your head high and declare, I am going to win. When challenges rise, keep saying it. When people doubt you, keep saying it. When the night seems long and silent, keep saying it. Because victory belongs to those who believe before they see. The moment you decide in your heart that you are going to win, heaven begins to move and the impossible begins to shift. I am going to win because the one who called me is faithful and He never fails. Victory begins in the unseen realm before it appears in reality. Every great achievement, every breakthrough, every answered prayer starts first as an invisible seed of faith planted in the heart of a believer. The natural world responds to what is established in the spiritual world. What you see with your physical eyes is temporary, but what you see with the eyes of faith is eternal. The unseen realm is where victory is conceived, shaped, and declared long before it becomes visible to human eyes. That is why those who live by faith are not moved by what they see. They are moved by what they believe. When you carry a vision from God deep inside your spirit, it begins to form your thoughts, shape your words, and direct your actions until the invisible becomes visible. The unseen realm is the place where God works. It is the realm of His promises, His purposes, and His power. Even when nothing seems to be happening on the outside, something powerful is moving on the inside. The unseen is not silent. It is active, creative, and alive with divine possibilities. When you start to believe, when you start to speak with faith, when you start to see through the eyes of the Spirit, you begin to align yourself with that unseen victory. Your words and prayers become the bridge between heaven and earth. Every declaration of faith builds momentum in the spiritual realm until it manifests in your reality. There are moments when everything around you contradicts what you believe. The evidence of defeat may be everywhere, but that's when true faith rises. The person who walks by sight will give up too soon, but the one who walks by faith holds on, because they know victory is already being written behind the scenes. God often works in silence, in shadows, in unseen ways. While you are waiting, heaven is organizing your breakthrough. While you are praying, angels are being dispatched. While you are believing, God is aligning situations, people, and opportunities for your victory. You may not see it yet, but that does not mean it isn't happening. Victory begins in the unseen realm because God speaks before things exist. In the beginning, He said, "Let there be light," and light appeared. The same power that created the universe works through faith-filled words today. When you speak life, you are cooperating with the creative force of God. When you declare victory, you are establishing it in the spiritual realm. Your confession becomes a prophecy of your future. The unseen realm responds to the language of faith. Doubt locks doors, but belief opens them. Fear silences movement, but faith accelerates it. That's why it's so important to guard your thoughts and words, because they are instruments that shape unseen realities into visible results. Many people wait to see before they believe. But true believers believe before they see. They walk with inner confidence, knowing that the invisible realm is more powerful than the visible. The greatest victories of life are birthed in seasons of darkness, when no one sees the process but God. When Joseph was in the pit, when David was in the cave, when Daniel was in the lion's den, when Jesus was in the tomb, victory was already being prepared. The unseen realm was at work, setting the stage for divine manifestation. What looks like defeat is often the soil where unseen victory grows. When you understand that victory begins in the unseen realm, you stop reacting to temporary circumstances and start responding with eternal truth. You stop saying, "It's impossible," and start saying, "It's already done." You stop focusing on the problem and start magnifying the promise. The unseen victory is not about denial of reality. It's about seeing a higher reality, the reality of God's power, His faithfulness and His word. Faith does not ignore facts, it overrides them with truth. The unseen realm is where faith takes root, where dreams are conceived, and where destiny begins to unfold. What is unseen today will be your testimony tomorrow if you dare to believe. Faith sees the win when circumstances still scream defeat. Faith is not blind optimism or positive thinking. It is the spiritual vision that looks beyond the surface of pain, confusion, and impossibility to see what God has already promised. When everything around you looks broken, faith whispers that it is being rebuilt. When people walk away and doors close, faith sees a door that no man can shut. When your heart trembles with fear, faith reminds you that God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Faith has eyes that see what others cannot see, and ears that hear what others cannot hear. It perceives the invisible hand of God working behind the visible chaos of life. Circumstances often shout louder than faith. They tell you it's over, it's too late, it's impossible. But faith refuses to listen to those voices. Faith does not take orders from the natural world, it takes instruction from the eternal word. It holds on to the promise, even when the evidence says the opposite. It believes in light while standing in darkness. Faith is not moved by emotions or timelines, it is anchored in divine truth. That is why people of faith can stand in the middle of storms with peace in their hearts and say, "I will overcome." Faith does not deny the storm, it declares that the storm will pass. Every great victory in history began with someone who chose to see differently. Noah saw a flood before the first drop of rain. Abraham saw a nation before he had a child. Joseph saw a throne while sitting in a prison. David saw a crown while hiding in caves. They all faced circumstances that screamed defeat, but faith painted a different picture inside their hearts. That inner vision became stronger than the outer reality. Their faith became their victory. The moment you begin to see victory through faith, your inner world starts to shift and your outer world begins to align with it. Faith has a language. It speaks what it sees in the spirit, not what it feels in the flesh. When faith says, "I will win," it is not ignoring the struggle. It is declaring the outcome that God has already written. The more you speak faith, the more you strengthen it. The more you meditate on the promise, the more power it gains within you. Circumstances might still scream, but your spirit begins to sing a different song. That inner melody of belief silences the noise of fear. Faith always creates sound before sight. It declares victory while defeat still looks certain. And that declaration changes the atmosphere around you. There are moments when faith feels like walking through fire. The heat is real, the pressure is intense, and yet something inside you says, "Keep walking." Faith is the courage to move when there is no visible path. It is the confidence that if God said it, it must come to pass. The situation may not make sense, but faith does not need understanding, it needs trust. Faith is not waiting for everything to be easy. It is believing that even in the hardest moments, God is still in control. The stronger your faith grows, the weaker the power of defeat becomes. When circumstances scream defeat, they are only testing the depth of your faith. Every challenge you face is an opportunity for your faith to prove what it believes. The louder the opposition, the greater the testimony. Faith does not panic in the presence of giants, it stands firm, knowing that giants fall before those who believe. Faith sees past the walls, past the fear, past the impossible. It looks straight at the mountain and says, "Move." And because faith believes what God says, the mountain must obey. So faith that sees victory is born from a relationship with God. The more you know Him, the more you trust Him. The more you trust Him, the more you can see what He sees. So you begin to walk in alignment with His vision instead of your own fears. The eyes of faith can see light even in the midnight hour, because they are fixed on the one who is the light. Even when everything screams defeat, faith keeps seeing the win, because faith knows the end of the story before it begins. You win inside your heart before you win in the world. The real battlefield is not in your circumstances, but in your mind and spirit. Before any great victory appears on the outside, it must first be settled within you. The inner decision to believe, to persevere, to rise again after falling. That is where the true victory begins. The moment you decide that defeat is not your final destination, everything around you starts to shift. The world responds to the condition of your heart. A victorious spirit produces victorious outcomes. You cannot carry defeat within and expect triumph outside. What you nurture in your heart eventually manifests in your life. Many people lose not because their challenges are too great, but because their inner belief is too small. They let fear, doubt, and insecurity build walls inside their minds. They give power to the negative voices that whisper they are not enough. Winning starts when you silence those voices and choose to believe the truth of who you are. The heart that knows it is destined to win cannot be stopped by the storms of life. When your spirit is filled with faith, courage, and determination, you become unstoppable. The outside world has no authority to defeat a person who has already conquered themselves within. Winning inside means learning to see yourself the way God sees you. It means replacing self-doubt with divine confidence, replacing fear with faith, and replacing despair with hope. You may face opposition, but your heart decides whether you surrender or stand. You may experience delay, but your heart decides whether you wait in trust or quit in frustration. The heart is the steering wheel of destiny. It determines your direction long before your feet move. If your heart is filled with victory, you will eventually walk into victory. Everything you do, every word you speak, every step you take flows from what is established inside. When you look at the heroes of faith, you find that their greatest strength was not in what they had, but in what they believed. They won battles others thought were impossible because they had already settled the victory in their hearts. David defeated Goliath long before he picked up the stone. He won in the fields while trusting God as a shepherd. Joseph triumphed in the palace because he refused to let bitterness grow in the prison. Esther saved her nation because she conquered fear before standing before the king. Their hearts carried faith long before their hands carried victory. The heart is where endurance is built. When everything around you says stop, the strength of your heart decides whether you keep going. People who win in life are those who have learned to rise again, no matter how many times they fall. Their victories are born out of unseen battles, moments of prayer, tears, and courage that no one else witnesses. Winning on the inside means forgiving when you could stay angry, believing when you could give up, and speaking life when negativity surrounds you. It means standing on the promise even when the evidence is gone. The inner victory shapes your outer world because everything external begins internally. Every dream requires an inner fight. The world around you may not believe in your vision, but if you believe in your heart, that is enough to begin. The moment you align your heart with faith, you activate a divine force that begins to move mountains in your favor. Circumstances may test you, people may misunderstand you, time may delay you, but nothing can stop what is already established within. A heart that refuses to give up cannot be defeated. When you win inside, your language changes. You no longer speak words of fear or defeat. You speak words of faith and hope. You stop asking if it's possible and start declaring that it's already done. Your emotions stop controlling your direction because your heart is anchored in peace. The more victory you carry within, the more it flows outward into your relationships, your work, and your purpose. You attract what you carry. A victorious heart draws victory toward it. Winning inside your heart means knowing that even in weakness, you are strong. Even in delay, you are progressing, and even in struggle, you are growing. Life may not always give you what you expect, but your heart can still hold on to what you believe. As long as your heart stays full of faith, the world cannot take away your victory. You win inside your heart before you win in the world. Every external victory begins with an internal decision. Before success becomes visible, it is first born in the unseen chambers of the heart. The greatest wars are not fought on battlefields or in boardrooms, but within the human spirit. The conflict between fear and faith, between doubt and belief, between giving up and standing firm happens long before the outcome appears. Winning is not something that happens to you. It is something that happens within you. When your heart believes in victory, the rest of your life begins to follow that belief. The strength of your inner world determines the quality of your outer world. There are people who look strong on the outside, but are crumbling within. And there are others who seem weak outwardly, but carry an unshakable fire inside. It is that fire, that inner conviction, that determines who truly wins. You can face giants, storms, and closed doors, but if your heart refuses to surrender, you are already on the path to victory. The one who conquers fear, bitterness, and doubt inside has already conquered the world outside. What you believe in the silence of your soul will echo in the noise of your life. Your heart is the factory of your destiny, and every outcome begins as a thought, a decision, a conviction deep within. To win inside your heart means to refuse defeat even when failure surrounds you. It means to rise above the voices that tell you it's over and listen to the voice of faith that says there's more ahead. You cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can control what happens within you. You can choose peace in chaos, hope in despair, and strength in weakness. That choice is where victory begins. The person who guards their heart guards their future. When you fill your heart with faith, love, and courage, no force can stop what God has placed within you. Think of the people who changed history. They all won inwardly before they ever won outwardly. Joseph was thrown into a pit, betrayed and forgotten, but he refused to let bitterness take root. His heart stayed aligned with his dream. So David faced rejection and danger, but he nurtured courage in his spirit before he ever faced Goliath. Daniel was surrounded by threats, but he had already decided in his heart that his faith would not bow. Every hero's story begins with a private victory, a moment when they chose to believe, to trust, and to stand even when everything told them not to. Winning in your heart also means mastering your emotions. You cannot let disappointment write your story. You cannot allow fear to make your choices. You must train your heart to respond with faith instead of reaction. The heart that wins is not the one that avoids pain, but the one that transforms it into purpose. Pain becomes power when it passes through a heart full of faith. Every setback becomes preparation. Every challenge becomes training. Every delay becomes development. The world may see struggle, but the person with a victorious heart sees shaping. When you win inside, your mindset shifts. You stop measuring success by circumstances and start measuring it by growth. You no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" but instead, "What is this building in me?" You stop waiting for things to change before you feel victorious and start living as if victory is already yours. That inner confidence radiates outwards and begins to attract opportunities, favor, and breakthrough. The world responds to the language of faith that flows from a winning heart. A winning heart is not free from fear, but it refuses to let fear lead. It is not free from pain, but it refuses to let pain define it. It is not free from challenges, but it chooses to stand tall through them. When you decide that your faith is stronger than your feelings, your destiny begins to shift. You start walking differently, talking differently, and thinking differently. You begin to carry the quiet strength of someone who already knows the outcome. The world notices people who have peace in storms, joy in trials, and hope in the impossible. That peace comes from a heart that has already won. You win inside your heart before you win in the world, because every external victory is simply a reflection of an internal triumph. The heart that believes in God's promise more than the pain, the heart that refuses to let failure have the final word, and the heart that chooses faith again and again is the heart that will see victory manifest in every part of life. Words of faith create the atmosphere for breakthrough. Every word that leaves your mouth carries power, either to build or to destroy, to lift or to limit, to open doors or to close them. What you speak continually becomes the environment you live in. The tongue has the ability to shape realities, because words are not empty sounds, they are spiritual seeds. When spoken with faith, they carry divine energy that produces change. Every victory begins with a declaration, and every breakthrough begins with a word. The universe responds to the sound of faith, and heaven moves when you align your speech with what God has promised. The words of your mouth are like a mirror of your heart. If your heart is full of fear, your speech will reflect fear. But if your heart is full of faith, your words will reflect power. When faith speaks, it does not describe the problem. It declares the solution. It does not complain about the mountain. It commands the mountain to move. The atmosphere of your life is constantly being influenced by the words you release. You can speak defeat and live in defeat, or you can speak victory and attract victory. When you fill your environment with the language of faith, you create a climate where miracles can grow. In the beginning, God created the world through words. He said, "Let there be," and there was. His creative power was released through speech. That same principle remains in effect today. When you speak words of faith, you are participating in that same creative process. You are calling things that are not as though they were. The moment you speak with conviction and align your confession with divine truth, something begins to shift in the spiritual realm. It may not be visible immediately, but the word has already been planted and it will not return void. People often underestimate the influence of their words. They say things out of frustration or fear without realizing those words are shaping their tomorrow. When you say, "I can't," "It's too hard," or "Nothing will ever change," you are reinforcing defeat. But when you speak faith, when you say, "I can do all things," "This season will shift," "God is working in my favor," you activate spiritual laws that begin to bring those declarations into existence. Words are carriers of faith or fear, life or death, power or weakness. What you consistently confess is what you eventually create. Faith-filled words have the ability to change atmospheres. When you enter a room and begin to speak encouragement, hope, and belief, darkness begins to retreat. The atmosphere of faith is one of expectancy, where miracles feel natural, where peace replaces anxiety, and where breakthrough becomes possible. When your speech agrees with God's promises, You invite His presence into your situation. The more you speak life, the more you breathe strength into your spirit and into the world around you. Even in times of silence, your words echo in the unseen realm, working to align reality with your faith. Every person who has experienced breakthrough first spoke it. They dared to declare what others were afraid to say. Abraham called himself the father of many nations before he had a child. Joshua commanded the sun to stand still before victory was complete. Jesus spoke life into the dead before life appeared. Words released in faith create movements that defy logic. When you believe what you say and your words are anchored in divine truth, they become unstoppable forces that shape destiny. Your words are like spiritual keys. When you use them correctly, they unlock the doors of opportunity, healing, and provision. When used carelessly, they can lock those same doors. That is why you must guard your speech, especially in moments of pressure. Speak faith when you feel fear. Speak peace when chaos surrounds you. Speak strength when you feel weak. The atmosphere of your life will always follow the direction of your confession. The more you align your language with God's word, the more your circumstances begin to align with His will. The most powerful people are not always the loudest or the strongest. They are the ones who know how to use their words with faith. They speak as if the victory is already theirs, as if the promise is already fulfilled, as if the miracle is already visible. Their words become instruments of creation, shaping new realities where others only see limits. When faith takes control of your tongue, it builds an environment that invites divine intervention. Breakthroughs do not happen by accident. They are cultivated through faith-filled declarations that prepare the way for the impossible to become possible. Every battle is training ground for your ultimate victory. The challenges you face are not meant to destroy you, but to develop you. Every struggle, every setback, every moment of pain is shaping something powerful within you. Life's battles are the classrooms where faith, endurance, and strength are taught. Without resistance, there can be no growth, and without testing, there can be no testimony. The road to greatness is never smooth, but every rough place is an opportunity for refinement. When you understand that your battles are not punishments but preparations, you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" The greatest champions are not those who avoided battles, but those who were forged by them. They learned how to stand when everything tried to knock them down. They discovered how to trust God when nothing made sense. Every tear, every sleepless night, every unanswered prayer became a piece of their spiritual armor. Through adversity, they developed muscles that comfort and convenience could never build. It is in the heat of battle that courage is born. It is in moments of pressure that purpose begins to emerge. What looks like a season of defeat is often a season of divine training. Every time you face a challenge, something inside you is being strengthened. When you fight through fear, faith grows. When you endure pain, perseverance takes root. When you stand firm in uncertainty, confidence is formed. The person you are becoming through the struggle is far more important than the struggle itself. God allows battles not to weaken you, but to prove what He has already placed inside you. Each test you pass builds spiritual authority and prepares you for the greater victories ahead. You are not losing when you are in a fight. You are learning how to win on a higher level. The secret to lasting victory is perspective. If you see battles as punishment, you will grow bitter. But if you see them as preparation, you will grow stronger. The difference between defeat and development lies in how you interpret your challenges. When you see every battle as training, you begin to fight with purpose. You stop running from difficulties and start facing them with confidence. The pain of the present becomes the seed of future power. Every wound becomes a reminder that you have survived something you once thought would destroy you. Those scars become the proof that you are battle-tested and ready for more. Even the smallest challenges have value. The daily struggles, the quiet disappointments, the moments when things don't go as planned, all of them are shaping your resilience. Champions are not built in victory, they are built in struggle. Every spiritual warrior learns that without the pressure of resistance, faith remains shallow. When you are tested, your prayer life deepens, your faith matures, and your trust in God becomes unshakable. The moments that stretch you are the moments that strengthen you. The battle you are in today is equipping you for the blessing you will hold tomorrow. Every battle reveals something hidden. It exposes your weaknesses, but also awakens your potential. You discover strength you didn't know you had, courage you didn't know you carried, and faith that you didn't know was possible. The more intense the battle, the greater the treasure hidden within it. Sometimes the only way to reach your destiny is to go through the battlefield that refines you. The very obstacles meant to stop you become stepping stones towards your breakthrough. What once intimidated you becomes the training ground for your confidence. When you embrace your battles, you take away their power to defeat you. You begin to walk with a sense of purpose, knowing that every fight has meaning. You no longer see opposition as an enemy, but as an instructor guiding you towards strength. You understand that growth rarely happens in comfort. The mountain is not there to block you, but to make you stronger as you climb. Every moment of struggle is a lesson in endurance, a test of faith, and an invitation to rise higher. The person who has fought battles and overcome them walks differently. They carry quiet authority, deep peace, and unwavering faith. They have learned through experience that pain has purpose and that delay is not denial. The scars they carry are symbols of wisdom and proof of grace. Every battle you face is shaping your destiny, refining your character, and preparing you for the victory you have been created for. What you learn in the valley becomes the strength that carries you to the mountaintop, and what once felt like warfare becomes the very foundation of your greatest triumph.